I'm Melissa.
And I'm Jesse. And
this is the Reimagine Success podcast.
We're a husband and wife team who want to make a difference.
Keeping up with the Joneses can be exhausting, and we can often lose sight of what we are accomplishing.
We're here to reimagine success and to celebrate the steps it takes us to get there.
Big or small, we want to showcase success stories that will inspire, motivate, and help propel you towards greatness in your own life.
So come reimagine success with us, and let's go on this journey together.
This week's episode brought to you by Deadly Crimson, a published comic book series picked up by Creative Global Entertainment. It's a compelling and thrilling action story with comedic elements similar to Avengers and Guardians of the Galaxy. This story keeps you gripping the edge of your seat while retaining an emotional center. Deadly Crimson is an action-adventure story about a scientist turned assassin who must rescue her kidnapped daughter despite the most criminal masterminds against her. Find out more at www.deadlycrimson.com, Instagram and Facebook at Deadly Crimson. Email crimsonisdeadly@gmail.com. Hello, and welcome back to another edition of Reimagine Success.
Hey, everybody. Hope you've had an extremely successful week this week, and we can't wait to hear all your amazing success stories.
Oh, yeah. We have been cranking out. We have our Patreon account, which is www.patreon.com/creativeglobal. You can find all kinds of exciting things that we're doing over there. We just released a video, right, Jesse?
Yeah, we've got a video where Melissa and I are doing some talking, and we're going to do a lot more of that sort of stuff, kind of behind the scenes looks at things. I've put out a video of an acoustic version of one of the songs from my record. Melissa's done some spoilers from her upcoming comic book and just released a new one today, didn't you?
I actually did. I have a spoiler on our Patreon account that you can see the first ever drawing pinup that will be inside of the next issue of Deadly Crimson, which I am really excited about.
Yeah, it's coming along great, and I can't wait to see that released. So lots of exciting things in the pipeline. So make sure you head over to www.patreon.com/creativeglobal and sign up there to be a part of all the behind-the-scenes looks at everything that we are doing between my music, Melissa's comic book stuff, and everything Reimagine Success.
Yes, so feel free to interact and share, and we'll have question and answer segments there as well. But today, we are so excited to get started on our podcast episode.
Yes, today we've got a longtime friend of mine. I've known this guy for going on 15 years now. We've got Ricky Rodriguez, who is a producer, mix engineer, and songwriter, and he owns and operates Baumhouse Recording in Morganton, North Carolina. He spent most of his adult life as a touring musician with such bands as Four Man Furnace and 7 Miles, but the studio is where you'll find him these days, working with national and regional artists of all genres. Ricky, so stinking glad to have you on the podcast.
Welcome.
Bud.
Bro, 15 years.
15
Legit.
years. I was thinking about it today because I met you back when Chip Latham was managing my band, Daylight Wasting, and that started back around 2007. He picked us up. And
that
we
feels
started
like yesterday.
It does. A young Jesse strolled into your studio back at your old place, and when you still had it in the other business, and we started recording those early Daylight Wasting demos. And
Dude, the thing I remember was you were a gunslinger guitar player. You still are.
Well,
But so you don't run across a lot of lead singers that are good guitar players. It's just not a common thing, to be honest. And in this case, I was like, oh, this dude could play guitar. So anyway, thanks for having me on.
Yes, great to have you here. I'm glad we get to this time to catch up. And so why don't we go ahead and start and let you tell your story of, kind of where you started, where you are now, and just kind of introduce yourself to our audience.
Cool. Let me do what I'm doing now first and kind of how I got to where I'm at. So these days I'm in Western North Carolina. So I would consider myself an independent producer engineer. So I got started years ago, and I mean, like, my dad bought me a 4-track cassette player, a drum machine when I was a kid, and I was recording my own music when I was in middle school, right?
Yeah.
So fast forward till today, and pretty much I'm in the studio about 6 days a week. I contract as a guitar player for a really big church out of Charlotte, North Carolina, which is a nice change of pace for me because I'm usually in front of this computer pretty much every day, which
Mhm.
I'm not complaining about, but I still like to get to play guitar and hang out with my friends on the weekends, which is what the church thing does for me. So I probably work on an average to about 100 to 150 songs a year, either mixing, mastering, or producing. I think I was an early adopter of a lot of recording technology that has become a standard today. When you have Billie Eilish making a record in her bedroom, that kind of made it okay to do what I do.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was kind of crazy. And that's kind of how this started. I was helping bands that would open up for my band. And then one of those bands would get signed by somebody, and it was crazy. It was just like a snowball effect. So nowadays I get to work with some really awesome songwriters, talent, bands. If it's interesting and I don't care the style of music, I get excited about it. So I as long as it comes from an honest place and they're serious about their craft, I'm willing to work on it. And it's been neat, man. It's been a neat ride. It's kind of crazy to be honest.
That is awesome. So Ricky has actually produced, I guess, like 7 projects for me in the various bands that I've been over the years. Unfortunately, now I'm self-producing, so now I just do everything in my living room.
I think that's a good thing. I think that's a great thing, by the way.
Oh yeah. It's not unfortunate is
Yeah.
that, but unfortunate that I don't get to work with you now because I do miss those days of being at your place in the studio and tracking all day, and those were excellent times for sure.
Yeah. Now,
Always.
I know you mentioned back in the day when you had your cassette player and all the technology that we had just starting out. I know that there's a lot of technology that has changed over the years. So how did, when you first started after the cassette player, how has technology changed for you, and how hard has it been adapting and trying to do technology before it actually comes out?
That's a great question. So the recording industry, as we know it, has gone through a huge change. The music business went through a huge change.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it has changed, drastically. But before that, we saw that change in the recording world. So in the '90s, it was very old school. You booked time at a commercial recording studio. You had so much time, and you had to get as much work as you can get done, and that was it. And it didn't matter. And back then, budgets for records were very different, right? If you were on the mainstream side, minimum, you had $500,000 to do whatever you wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And if you were on an independent side of the music business, you had $20,000. And that's the way it was. And so I would say my first recording I ever did that was released was done on tape. Like we were using 2-inch tape, the old school way. And then not even 3 years after that, they switched to another digital format called ADATs, which was like the last thing before Pro Tools, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pro Tools started coming out in the late 90s, and it became a standard thing in major studios in the late 90s, early 2000s. And I think I got my first Pro Tools system in 2001. Nobody in my area had even heard of it. I was going to Nashville tracking guitars for artists. There was a producer there. He was signed with EMI, and he would bring me in, and I would do all of the tracks, all the guitar tracks, some of the bass tracks, just in one weekend, right? And that was the first time I saw Pro Tools, and it was so much faster. It was so much more efficient. It wasn't even close. Like it was so funny. And I remember calling my wife on the way home from that weekend. I said, "Hey, I think I'm going to sell my equipment and buy a Mac in this Pro Tools system." She was just like, "Go for it." and there were no YouTube tutorials. There was nothing. I had to learn. I had to learn on my own, like, and from friends that had been engineering in other cities. So the technology started changing in the early 2000s, and then I would say probably every 4 years we saw a big jump, right? And it had to go with the computer. Every time Mac made a big jump, it helped me, right? And sometimes Apple did crazy stuff. Like, you remember that trash can computer they put out? It literally looks a black trash can. To audio professionals, that was like the worst thing you could make for me. Like, I couldn't use that. And then they went back to the traditional thing that looks like a cheese grater, right? Because if you could imagine, I probably have in a year, I go through 4 terabytes of hard drives just in audio files, and videos even more than that. Like, videos a lot more. So to answer your question about technology, the recording systems got better, they got more stable, and they got faster. So we were able to do a lot more things a lot quicker, and I keep up with it. So I nerd out about it. I love it. I think YouTube's helped out a lot as far as being able to see what's coming up and see workflows. It's all about workflow, really, is what it is. So
yeah, that is one of the things that I've always appreciated about you, is not only do you keep up with it, but you're very open about how you're keeping up with it, testing stuff out publicly, giving reviews. You have always been somebody that I like to follow to see what's fresh and what's cool out there, because whether it's new recording software or new iPhones or whatever it is, you're reviewing it. And
I'm all about it. And honestly, we don't see this as much, but it's still out there, right? This whole like Sony versus Microsoft Xbox thing. Like, you got PS5 over here, you got the Xbox over here. In the audio world, it's Fender versus Gibson, and it's Pro Tools versus everybody else. The reality is, and people don't like to hear this, is that Pro Tools got popular because they happened to be in California and they were giving it away for free at major studios. So that got adopted quicker, and it never really caught on in Europe. It never really got caught on in other parts of the country. Meanwhile, we have Logic, we have Ableton Live, we have all these other workstations, FL Studio. People used to joke about, FL Studio. Now it's what people used to make beats with. It's become a standard. Yes. Yeah. It's become FL Studio. That's a good example, but, it doesn't matter anymore. Whatever you use, whatever works for you and allows you to be creative, do it. If it's GarageBand, it's free on your Mac.
Yeah. That's actually what I recorded my entire last record, and everything that I've done has always been in GarageBand, because I've got a refurbished Mac and it kind of sucks, and I can't upgrade to the newest thing. Yeah. So I've got Logic on my machine, but I can't use it to record because my Mac is so old that it's missing certain codecs and stuff to make it run.
I will say to get into the nerdy side of things, the new Macs with they're called the M1 chips, the Apple silicone chips, for the money, they're so powerful. We're talking like a friend of mine is recording like 750 tracks on a Mac Mini in Logic. It's incredible how powerful that new machine is for a very good price. So that's another thing with technology. Things price-wise have really been in our favor as far as power, to record, because, and I don't know, there's a band I produce, they do all their pre-production on an iPad.
Yeah.
Like, he brings in his iPad and literally hits play, and I listen to those tracks, and it just cracks me up, man. And he does, and it's awesome. We export all the files out and we go to work,
Yeah, technology has just made it unbelievably easier for people to have access to good quality recordings these days, which has made the bar a lot lower for getting into the business. but it makes the bar a lot higher because then you have to stand out amongst the rest, and good producers like you will help people to stand out above the crowd.
That's been the most recent change I've seen, because you were around back in the day where we had like physical product. You know, you had a T-shirt, you had a sticker, you had a CD, you had something you had to move, and that's how we ate. That's how we put gas in our vehicles, right? Nowadays, you know, you could be playing anywhere at a bar, and all you have to say is, "Hey, I'm on your phone. I'm on Spotify now, or I'm on Apple Music," and it's really, you have to let people know, and through social media, you have to bombard them to remind them, you know, "Hey, I'm here. You know, this is happening." Even I don't really advertise for what I do, but I still have to remind people that I'm here. And that's kind of how I need to use my social media, you know, not to get business, just to let people know, hey, I'm here. It's still happening. You can get a hold of me here, you know?
Yeah, because if you were actually advertising, good grief, you'd be overwhelmed.
I don't know. I honestly couldn't imagine. So.
Well, speaking of couldn't imagine adding on another client, as of right now, how does it look, your work-life balance? I know that you mentioned you try to get with your friends on the weekends and you try to have like a home life balance. As being an engineer and, you know, doing everything that you're doing, how hard is it to keep your work-life balance?
That's man, you are killing it with the questions today. So that's another good question, and that's something I've struggled with. Maybe
me too.
Maybe I would say maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I kind of hit a wall personally. It wasn't like emotionally, I'm a very even keel person. I don't get very high. I don't get very low. I kind of just maintain the norm. But I hit a point maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and this is, man, me and my wife have been in this community a long time. We're talking 25 plus years. Our kids have been raised here. I've got one on her own. I've got one about to go to college. We're about to hit the empty nester phase, but I, just like every other dad, had to coach sports. I took them to school. I was very involved with my family. That was very important to us and me. But about 5 or 6 years ago, I hit a wall where I kind of woke up and I realized, man, I'm having a hard time getting motivated to do what I do. And I love what I do. I love it. But it was obviously me, right? There was something off balance. And I started taking Mondays off. Like, I started mentally telling myself, Monday, no clients. I'm going to go to Aldi's. I'm going to go to Walmart. I'm going to go get my groceries, going to pay bills. And I'm not going to walk into my studio, and I'm not going to do any work. If a client texts me, the answer is Tuesday morning. I'll follow up, whatever. And that first year, I probably only did that half of the time on Mondays. Now it's like most of my Mondays. And it's something I look forward to. Me and my wife are big movie fans. We always make time to go to the movies. Even through the pandemic, I didn't care. I wanted to go see all the big movies. But when it comes to family and balance, the bottom line is, you can either work for somebody else and make them wealthy, or you can work for yourself and be happy. You can really, you're doing it for you, right? And this is mine, and it's not really mine, it's my family's, right? And it's become a community in this area. It really has. It's kind of growing into something bigger than what I thought. But at the same time, I don't mind the grind. I kind of embraced it. I will work as hard as an artist works, or as hard as anybody works. But when we, like, for example, last year we took our 25th anniversary trip to Maui. And we went for like over 2 weeks, which was the biggest trip we've ever taken. And I had a hard time coming back, just to be honest, because we had such a good trip, right?
That was the same way for us when we went on our honeymoon in Aruba.
It was hard, man. Like, it was hard to get back. But when I got back, it was good. Like when I looked at all my Dropbox files and I looked at all my messages, and I had a ton, it was good. It felt good, And as far as to answer your question about the weekends, I am surrounded by some incredible musicians where I play, probably like top tier, talent, and it makes it easy, man. It's just so fun. These guys are my friends. I'm part of a really big team it's bigger than what we do, and it's fun. At my age, I'm more of a mentor, right? I'm kind of the guy that's helping our younger guys on our team. I get to travel a little bit, check on our guys, and look at the bands, and it's great. It's just a different role, something I really enjoy.
Yeah. And for those of you that won't know this, Ricky is a ridiculous, insane guitar player. As good as I am, like, he just puts me to shame because he can just shred it up. So
I will accept that, but I don't believe that. How about that? All right. I am a guitar player, and I'm addicted to guitars. That is an issue.
And gear.
Yeah, I have. You don't get to see it, but I'm surrounded by guitar pedals and things. But it's again, it's people buy boats, right? We had to go buy a roof a couple of years ago, and the banker was just like, "Hey, man, people use this money and go buy like beach houses." I'm like, "Bro, I'm buying a guitar. Like, I have no interest in this stuff." Kind of funny stuff, but yeah.
Yeah, I just acquired another guitar recently. It was actually my old guitar. I'd sold it a couple years ago, and then the guy I sold it to was wanting to get rid of it and offered it back to me. I was like, "Yes, I want it back."
Which one was it?
The Epiphone Sheridan, the hollow body.
I remember. Yeah,
I love that guitar, and I'm finally got it back. I'm so happy.
Good. Cool.
And you've inspired me to buy guitars. The PRS that I've got was the exact kind that you had in the studio when we came and recorded. So
I love mine. I still, I just picked up the new John Mayer SC is what they call it. So they put out a foreign line of that guitar, and I'll play that guitar. I love that guitar. But anyway, I don't want to.
We could sit here and nerd out on guitars all day.
I don't want to bore people talking about.
So, obviously you've worked with a million bands and artists over the years, and some pretty insanely large ones. Where have you been able to see your work go in the world, and what does that feel like to know that something you produced has been super successful?
Man, another good question. So I never really thought about it that way, because doing this independently in a small town, my expectations were literally, hey, let's just not starve and figure out how this is going to work. That was my expectation. What I did not realize was that, Nashville is a good example, right? Nashville is an incredible town. If you're a songwriter, or you're really looking to build something there and network. But it's not the best town for a band looking to record an album. It's just not.
Right.
It's very expensive. It's kind of like a factory there, where you go in a couple of days and you get out, and you spend a lot of money, and you don't really get to invest artistically in your songs. Somebody tends to call the shots for you there.
Heck, half the time the musicians aren't even playing their own songs.
No, they're not. No, they're like the country world's a good example. Probably if you look at the top 10 singles, I would say 80% of those are the same band. Pretty much, it's kind of what it is, and it's because they're the best in the biz, and they can knock out a record in a couple of days, and everybody makes a little bit of money, but they save money by not having to really grind it out in the studio. So. But okay, going back to hearing my work though, so I had no expectation of stuff happening that way, but it was Jesse, it was really neat to watch the younger bands I would produce go on to success and do well. To me, that was better than, hey, there was a single I co-wrote that was killer in the Christian rock charts. That's awesome, but I didn't really care about that. It was more about, hey, it was neat to see a band A, get signed to Sony, B, do well, B, like they were the number one band for them for a long time, and it's kind of neat to see that. And then fast forward to like country music. I would have never thought I would have ever worked on a country record ever in my life. A friend of mine signed a country deal. He called me up, hey, you're going to do this record. I'm like, bro, I don't even know where to start. He was like, you'll figure it out. Literally. He was like, you'll figure this out. So he sent me the songs and we figured out a game plan. And that record went on to do very well. And then since then, I've got independent artists that work with me that probably average, close to 500,000 streams a year now that they've been able to do on their own. Right. And I mean, I don't think the snare sound or guitar tones I'm using on their singles is bringing that stream. I may be able to help them with that. But the fact is, like, I love to see people that take their craft seriously and grow from it. And if success comes from it, great. But yeah, it is kind of weird. I have been places, I've been in other states and run into people that knew me for something.
Oh, wow.
That's weird. That's weird. And that is like, especially with my family, my kids just roll their eyes. Like, what? Where do they know you from? Well, so that has happened, but I just chalk that up to being old.
You just get around.
Age.
That's really cool. I was actually at Comic-Con one year in San Diego and someone noticed my character. So I was dressed up as my character, which was a really cool feeling. And I was actually in Italy one year and somebody recognized me and I'm like, whoa.
Talk to me. Okay, I want to know about this. So you talked about the comic book at the top of the podcast. Talk to me about that.
Yeah. So I wrote and produced a comic book series. Actually, it's called Deadly Crimson, and it's about a scientist who actually turns herself into an assassin, and she uses nanobot technology in order to do this. But it actually turns her entire world upside down. She has a husband and a daughter, and so now the rest of the comic book series that is about to come out is basically her kind of putting her life back together.
Man, that's killer. I will check that out.
Thank you.
Issue 2 is about to drop in the next 2-ish months or so.
Yeah, it should be very soon. It's just so much with COVID and printing
really
backlogs and things like that. But we're getting there.
Yeah. That sounds cool. That sounds great.
Yeah. So what's cool is, all the different avenues that we all get to work in. She's a comic book author, actor, producer, I'm a musician. I've done a little bit of acting. You have your hands in a million things. You've hosted your own podcast. You've done gaming, streaming. You've made videos, recording, and mixing tutorials, gear tutorials. The list goes on and on and on. What other creative outlets have you explored lately, and how have those worked out for you?
Man, I think creatively, I think like mixing audio, that never, you just don't stop learning how to mix audio, right? So I think the last couple of years I've gotten really into learning some software outside of the Pro Tools world. Nothing against Pro Tools. I just found it very uninspiring. Like I kind of just didn't find it inspiring. And for me, I wanted to try some different things. So I would say the last couple of years, I've been trying some different software. I've been, outside of music, really, I love reading books. Sci-fi books are kind of my favorite thing. We love movies and like Boba Fett. Book of Boba Fett was just, I live for that. I just finished Peacemaker this morning.
Nice.
Which was like so good. Like I get so inspired by watching James Gunn with no filter, right? He has no filter on this show, and that's his brain for watching on TV. And I love that. I love that kind of stuff. And then outside of this, I'm a big fan of a video game called Destiny 2, made by Bungie, the makers of Halo.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a group of friends that I play with that are across literally the planet. We're all in the same clan. And I probably spend hundreds of hours with them in a year running the most difficult content in that game, drinking a lot of diet soda and using a lot of bad language. But yeah, that's kind of what I like to do. Like, there's a new DLC coming out next week for Destiny 2, and I will be playing that, grinding that for the next 3 months, and usually I have to play that at night, like till midnight. I get a limited time frame, and I do that. But creatively, I'm still learning guitar riffs. Every once in a while I'll run across somebody on YouTube that's just killer, and I'm still working on it. I don't think that's ever going to stop for me.
Well, software constantly changes, just like with our cell phones. Every 6 months, we need to update it, I feel like. So I'm sure in your world, software and, even hardware changes constantly. Yep. So you always have to be up to date.
There is, well, I'll tell you something funny here. So I guarantee you, and I guarantee you with a lot of money, bet you, that there's a recording studio in Nashville still running the same Pro Tools system they bought in 200001. I promise.
Wow.
I promise.
I bet you that's true.
Yes.
I know that is true.
They will not, that thing will never be connected to the internet because they know it works and it's always going to be there, right? And I am the exact opposite of that.
Yes.
I want to be the latest and greatest. There's a lot of exciting things happening in our world when it comes to the products that are coming out, man. And man, it's just I love it. It's just now, can it get frustrating? Yes, but you've got to I just did an update on my OS on the computer in my studio to Big Sur. I'm a year behind. I have to stay a year behind because everything has to work. I have 400 plugins.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So before I can even update, I have to run a program that tells me which plugins are compatible with what I've got. It's a whole
Good
day.
Grief.
So, but it's worth it. It's worth it because if it can save me 15 minutes a day, that's 15 minutes a day. And that compiles. That's pretty fast. Like when you think. Like these days, for me, a good example, editing vocals used to take forever. Nowadays, it's not as bad as a chore, And I have an assistant that helps me, but it's still not too bad. It's kind of just one of those things. I get a cup of coffee in the morning. I come in here with a fresh mind, and I kind of just sit here, zone out for a little bit. I usually have somebody streaming in the background, and I edit all morning. That's kind of my vibe. It literally relaxes me when I hear somebody yelling about video games in the background. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is.
I am a lot like you where I just have to stay up with the latest technology. And, a lot of times when we do have new software, new hardware, there is a little bit of a learning curve that we have to go through. So we might have to spend a day, learning how to perfect this new software, this new hardware. But after that, if, like you said, if it saves you 15 minutes, if it saves you an hour, you can go through your days in the future until there's some other software hardware that's ready to, download or be available. But I'm so like you.
You see this pedal I'm touching right here? This thing's called a Quad Cortex, which is like the latest and greatest in guitar technology. Okay. It creates models of real life guitar amps, right? And a pedal that's literally this big, right? So when I do a travel date, all I got to do is take this, put it in my gig bag, and I'm out the door. And the minute I saw that announced, I was on the waiting list immediately. And that's kind of my thing. Like
he always has the iPhone before anybody else.
Have you all seen the new Steam Deck that's coming out? It's like a Steam's version of a Nintendo Switch, right? That's supposed to run like PC games. I'm gonna get one of those because
I might get one of those too.
If I can play Destiny 2 in the green room, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna, I am absolutely gonna do that. If I'm traveling somewhere, I'll play that.
So now phones, I am totally up to date. I have the new Z Flip phone, which is really cool. So
I
you
love
can
that.
flip it open and it'll be one phone. So I'm very into technology. However, with gaming systems, I still have the Wii, like the Wii, not the Switch, not the Wii. I have the original Wii.
I will encourage you. I will encourage you that we are in the golden age of gaming right now. It is very good. It's kind of Xbox, Microsoft is taking things to another level. They have a subscription service now, kind of like the Netflix for gaming, right? That, man, it's genius when you look at it. It's an endless amount of content for a very small price per month. And that kind of stuff. And I have all the game systems. But yeah, man, we're in the golden age of just media. I think we're getting some high quality stuff,
Oh yeah, for sure.
Now, have you looked into what music in the metaverse is going to look like? I know they're starting to upgrade all recordings into Dolby Digital surround sound.
Can I complain about the metaverse?
You sure can. Go for it.
Complain about it because I realize I'm risking looking like an idiot in 2 years when I'm saying this. Okay, but I have tried VR personally. I did not like it. I did not love it. We had the Quest 2. I think it's called something else now. Like whatever. We had the
Oculus
Yes. And I tried it. There definitely was some cool concepts in it, right? But I don't buy it. Like I do not see myself using something like that. I do not think that's the next step. And if Meta thinks that's the next step, then I think that's a problem. I'm interested to see how Apple decides to counter what that is. Like, let me see what Apple thinks this is, because Apple is not going to put a clunky thing on your head.
Right.
They're just not going to do that. It's just not what that company does, or even Elon. Elon's not going to do that either. Like there's going to be guys out there that could approach that technology. I just don't know, man. Like it's kind of weird though. You have to admit, like the minute Facebook was like, "Hey, we're Meta," and then all of a sudden, everything, even Microsoft, when they bought a company, they bought some huge gaming company. They were like, they bought Activision, and in that statement, they were like, "This is going to be a part of our metaverse." What does that have to do? Like that they're not going to get caught on the metaverse. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not sold on it. I am interested in it, but I saw the commercial during the Super Bowl. And I just rolled my eyes because to me it looked like a Nintendo game, right?
Yeah,
it's a Nintendo Me kind of thing. I just don't know. Maybe Apple will put out something that may interest me. But I don't know. I'm on the fence with that. I'm more excited about electric vehicles.
Yeah.
My tattooist bought a Tesla. That thing is smoking.
Oh yeah,
that will be the next car.
Oh yeah, we have a Tesla representative already. That is happening.
Yeah, we're looking at that very seriously.
Like they like if you get into that car, you realize why there's a cult following around that. They don't advertise at all.
Oh yeah, they don't need to.
They kind of just let the internet go crazy with their conspiracies. They let people kind of like there's a YouTube channel of a dude that flies a drone over the Tesla plants. His entire YouTube channel are drone videos of Tesla plants, and some of them have tons of views because they'll put the Tesla truck out there, right? I think that was the most recent thing that popped up. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about that kind of technology, and I'm excited about putting like solar panels on my house. Like that's they got batteries that can power your house, kind of a thing. I love that idea.
Jesse, we eat so clean and healthy here at the house, and Jesse always jokes around with me and says, in like 5 years, our house is going to be nothing but like a farm with,
Yeah,
with like all of our homegrown ingredients.
that's a
Yeah.
good thing though. Like we do HelloFresh,
Yeah.
right? Like we got into I think over the pandemic we started doing HelloFresh, and that stuck with us because it limited waste,
Mhm.
right? I don't feel like I'm wasting anything. The quality of what we get is really good, but sustainability is a big deal. You
Yes.
know,
Yes.
Oh yeah.
I do agree with that. I do agree with that.
Um, so for a lot of years, when I first started recording with you, you were simultaneously running your studio and a whole other staffing business. And
Yeah,
that
yeah.
seems
Still
like
have it.
you still have it. You're still
Yep,
running
yep.
it behind the scenes.
I am very like I would say um my involvement is like out of 100%, it's like 2%, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, the that you know, my dad, this is a great segment and to go into my family history, but my family, they immigrated here from Cuba to Miami. Those immigrants had to give up their businesses. They had to give up their houses. I mean, you know, the KGB took my dad's house.
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
that's kind of what happened.
Hmm.
So that generation that came to this country, very entrepreneurial. I grew up in an entrepreneurial home, and you know, we have multiple businesses. We just don't have one. You know, the staffing thing kind of happened by accident when I was going back to college. When I went to college, like we just had a need in this community. We were getting people jobs, and somebody at that plant, furniture plant, was like, "Hey, you guys need to start this business." And my dad was like, "What?" We didn't even know what it was. And then we kind of like fell into it, and then that has been like 30 years of
Mm-hmm.
the same business. It's kind of crazy. So I still, you know, I'm in this community. I know everybody. You know, I kind of know the decision makers. So from that standpoint, if something goes bad, which it rarely does, but every once in a while something does go bad, I'm usually the one that has to go, "Hey, this is bad."
Yeah, you
And
try to fix it.
yeah, I tend to be that guy.
Right.
But for the most part, it's on cruise control. You know, with any business, like we also have something in the cosmetics world we're working on too,
Oh, cool.
right? Like we're always working on different things.
Hmm.
Um, we figured out that there are certain customers that work well for us and some that don't.
Hmm.
And I would say previously we would try to go get everything. Nowadays, no. Like they have to fit with us as much as we have to fit with them.
Right.
And that took things to a different level for us. If that makes sense. It's the same thing with me. If I have a
Mhm.
client that I don't think we're going to work well together, we're not I have no problem saying no. Like, you know, I have a thing about content. You know, if the
Mhm.
content is too negative, I'm just not doing it. You know,
Hmm.
it has nothing to do with my belief structure. It's just I do not want to look at this or listen to this 100 hours it's going to take me to work on this project. you
Right.
know,
Right.
so but yeah, we're still involved. We still do that. You know, I don't think my dad's ever going to retire. You know, like we got to have something to keep him going. You know, he needs something. You know,
Yeah. I think that point that you just made, though, is one that can be a life lesson for a lot of people. Don't try to bring stuff into your world that doesn't fit with your scheme. So,
Hmm.
you know, if you're an artist, make art for the people, like a very specific group of people. Find your tribe, find the people who are going to enjoy what you do. Don't just try to blanket market to everybody, but be really specific
and
Right.
about who you're chasing after, because
I had that's a great point. I had a band in here recently um where we were talking about, hey, like why are we doing what we're doing,
Mhm.
right? And I always encourage groups, really encourage them, you know, to what write from an honest place and kind of do what you do well and do that, right? Um, I have seen I have seen a lot of people try to become something they're not, um, and people that are that way don't do well around me because I try to be as real as I can.
Right.
I
You
can
know,
vouch for that.
Yeah, I am who I am. Me and my wife joke we're Christians, but we cuss a little. You
Mhm.
know, that's kind of our thing. Like life is life. Sometimes
Mhm.
it's good, sometimes it's bad, but we are who we are. We try to stay real to that, and that's why any songwriter, anybody that's created with art, you're just not going to do it if you're not being true to yourself. You know,
Yep.
and even in business, man, like even in business, it's just you have to stick to your guns with certain things. Because in a couple of years you end up in a place where you didn't even know how you got there. You know,
Yep.
like just compromise here, you compromise there. Before you know it, you're miserable with something that you thought you loved. You know,
And speaking on that topic of being miserable, what over the years, because you have your hands in so many different avenues and so many different chapters, so many different companies, what has been some of your biggest failures and struggles over time through doing all of
that's
this?
another good question. She is good. You are good at this. All right. So failures and struggles, man, that's a good one. I'll give you something I'm struggling with currently.
Yeah.
One of my best friends is in the worship Christian world. Like he's the number one drummer in my opinion. He inspired generations of drummers. You know, this guy has played on some of the most influential worship records, I would say, in the last 10, 15 years, right? And he has really pushed me and encouraged me to get into the world of like content creation. You know, a lot of our products these days in the music world is very digital, right? You can buy this product, you can download the preset, run that preset, and you sound like whoever you want, right? And that is something that he's really encouraged me to get into, and I've been dragging my feet because I have a very hard time promoting myself on social media. Like it's the worst thing to me to say, hey, look at this thing I'm promoting and I'm selling this preset for $10, right? And that's a hard thing for me to do, but I believe it's the future of our business, to be honest. I think as digital technology gets better, especially in the music world, like I've been mixing records forever now. This is another good example. I use drum samples. The drum sample world is very popular. The same drummer, Luke, who I've been talking about, we partnered together to sell drum samples, right? And when he approached me about it, I was like, bro, I've been doing this for 20 years. I'll be glad to help you, you know, and we partnered to do this. But in my mind, I was like, man, I was excited about it, but it's something I've already been doing. What I didn't realize was the demand for it. Like, there's a huge demand for that. And the last pack we just did has been number one for 4 months.
Wow.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Which is great, but I didn't see it coming, right? In my mind, it's just something I've been doing for 20 years, you know, with the drum samples. But, you know, in that world, that's something I really, really need to pursue on the guitar side of things. Then I would say probably failure-wise, you know, there's in this world, you could feel one day you can feel like, man, everything's great, future's awesome, and then something happens the next day and you feel like crap, we're in trouble. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, you know, you go from like business wise, you go from a very bright outlook to like, oh, this is bad, right?
Like a roller coaster ride.
Yeah, it is. And I think planning for those seasons in business, that's something I've been guilty of, not planning for that. And that's something I've worked on over the years, you know, not just financially, just mentally, the whole thing. Hey, we've been through this. What do we do to fix this? Pandemic was a good example, right? I mean, like, I had never had a week off from the studio other than for us to go on vacation ever.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I was just like, well, this is a new issue, but I took the time to repaint, we refloored, I sold some gear, bought some gear. There's some microphones I wanted to get. Like, I took the time to do something. I don't know if I would have been able to do that 10 years ago, right? I don't
Right.
think mentally I could have done that.
Yeah.
I think I would have been so defeated by not working. I would have just kind of sulked and probably been bitter a few weeks, and then probably would have eventually gotten to it.
Mhm.
But I would say now I'm like, no, let's approach this differently, right? Yeah, I'm not having people in here. Incomes could be weird for the next couple of months. Let's figure it out,
Right.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's something that to this day, I'm getting better at dealing with that. But the bottom line is, man, like, I'm responsible for what this does, and I carry the weight of that. I take
Yes.
it seriously, and I really, if I'm guilty of anything, it's usually, just when things don't always go the way I think they're going to go, there's some struggle with that sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. I know, Jesse and I both are guilty of trying so hard to fit everything into our daily lives. And, not only that, but work and our creative projects and spending time with each other, the kids, dinner. Like, there's so many things that has to happen in one 24-hour day. And you also need sleep. So, we are very guilty of saying, okay, well, we'll do this tomorrow. We'll get prepared for this. We'll make sure that we get it done this week. But what has been great for us is to actually have a chart where we have it visually in our bedroom, where we see it every single day. And we know what we have to get done this year for 2022. We know what we have to get done for every single month, every single week, what we need to get done.
Great
and it's
idea.
just, it's helped us a lot to stay on track and to make sure that we get our goals and we have our 2022 goals complete by the end of the year.
I love that. So at the end of every year, I usually make a to-do list for myself. It's on my phone. And I kind of go, hey, like, I celebrate the wins, right?
Yep.
I look at the wins. I look at the things that I can improve. Hey, what could I do better? And it's sometimes not a business thing. It could be a client thing. Like, if I know, hey, like, we're kind of doing something here that's working against us. Why don't, I'll reach out to that client and be like, hey, I had this idea. Why don't we try this? See if it helps, right? That kind of a thing. And then finally, just like, gratitude has become something that's very important to me. And not only just with my wife, like, communicating to her, hey, very thankful for what she does for me, but my kids, hugging my kids and my buds. I think I'm a huggy type guy. This pandemic's made it weird, but I don't really care, but I've really focused the last 5 or 6 years to express gratitude and to encourage. I very much struggle with social media. I think social media allows you to be fake with certain things, personally, not talking business. I'm talking personal, and I struggle with that when I know the reality of that person's life, but they're posting that everything's perfect,
Right.
and I just don't want to see that. I'm okay with the warts. You can show me warts. I'm not going to judge you. It's all good, but it's social media is just not built that way. So, but yeah, gratitude's become a big thing for me, and just encouraging. And I find it that leading that way has worked, and not just with my family, but with my business and just in general. And that's something that's been a focus, and it'll continue to be. I think as long as people can complain about the world culture, whatever. The bottom line is, if you're encouraging people, loving people, it's a stereotype. You need to do it.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love
I don't care how different you are. I don't care if you don't believe in what I do, or you don't whatever, bro.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? It's just not something I'm entertaining. I'm just not, I grew up in this is a whole different discussion, but I grew up in a very negative religious environment that I don't ever want to treat people like, ever.
Yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Like the antithesis of that,
Mm-hmm.
and that's another thing that I really do think about that stuff,
Yeah. Well, you're supposed to love everyone like you love yourself, and it starts with us loving ourselves and then loving everyone else and giving and getting. And there's a lot to what you said that is so important, and gratitude should be at the beginning and the end of our day. We should be thankful. And that's actually, Ricky, what this podcast is about. We want everyone to reimagine their own success. We want everyone to know that your success is going to be different than everyone else. And social media does post a fake picture for everybody. And, we are not living up to the Joneses per se. We are living up to ourselves and what we want and what makes us happy.
I love that. Like, I just love, how do we measure success? Well, man, success is my family and being a good dad and a good husband. My daughter's on her own. She called me the day she got real health insurance at her job. She didn't know what to do. What do I do with this paperwork? And I was thinking to myself, this is great. Like, this is where, hey, this is what you do. And helping her get her
enough to have health
insurance. Yes, dude, it's crazy. And
well, we have an awesome story about our daughter, Adelina. She actually just got a boyfriend.
There you go.
Life happens.
And we have been through that, and it's kind of fun. It's challenging, but that's what I measure success at. I have a lot of friends that have done a lot of different things, and not just the music industry, but other things. But that's not how I view success for me. And I'm okay. I'm okay living. We're living in Morganton. Nobody knows about this town, but if you come through, come hang, and it's okay, and that's just, I don't know if it's a maturity thing. I know it was a mature thing for our family, but I can tell you stories upon stories. But the fact is, we're sticking to the gratitude and the encouraging and how we see success and, what our future looks like. I've always got ideas, but we'll see. I'm always excited about what's to come.
Yes.
Yeah. So with that, one of our favorite segments of the show is just celebrating people's success every week. And so I know you just listed a lot of things that make you successful: husband, wife, husband, father, all the cool things like that. But what is there anything specific that you'd like to celebrate today with us, saying this is a recent success that I've had and I just want to celebrate it publicly?
Yeah. I think, I will say this. I am a leader at where I play guitar at, right? And in this past year, we've had a lot of change, like everybody else has with this pandemic. We've lost a lot of musicians. It's been a struggle, to say the least, even in a bigger town, to find musicians. But in that struggle, the win for me was I ended up at a place surrounded by guys closer to my age. Not only that, but like incredible skill level. Like, not just like, man, these guys are good. Like, these guys are like the best. And I just finished my first year there, and I'm so thankful that like this Sunday when I get to jam with these guys, I'm with some dudes that are they're just monsters, man, and they're good people, and that's a win for me. I consider that a big win, and then maybe the drum sample thing, that's neat to have something number one. I don't think about that, but hey, that's cool that there's all these producers, big time producers, using drum samples I made, which is hilarious to me.
That's awesome.
But I love that. And that's just a different thing, but I would say those two things, I would celebrate as big wins.
Those are humongous wins. I mean, anytime Jesse or I, we do something that is successful, we encourage each other, we ramp each other up. Jesse actually just got booked for a stoner festival here, a music festival here in Atlanta. And so we are always want to celebrate our successes, and we want to celebrate your successes every single day. And
Awesome.
our listeners, whatever your success is for this week, do not forget to celebrate it.
Yes. All right. So Ricky,
Sorry, I was going to point out one daily success I give myself.
go for it.
Yes.
Mountain burrito. I give myself mountain burrito once a day. That's
Every
like
day.
my little baby success. I'm not kidding. Every day. I'm like, oh, I'm hungry. Let's go to mountain burrito.
Mountain
Nice.
burrito
It's a
is
little win.
the most delicious burrito place
But it
probably
really is.
ever. It really
really
is great.
But it's my little gift to myself. Like, it doesn't matter. I warn everybody, hey, at some point we're getting hungry. This is where we're going.
Yeah, you don't go to the studio with Ricky and not eat mountain burrito.
There's no option. I just don't even leave people the option. You know what I'm saying? So, all right. Anyway, go ahead.
Nice.
So why don't you go ahead and real quick tell everybody where they can find you, where they can connect with you, and where I can get your drum plugins.
Oh, okay, cool. So the drum samples. Well, I'll start with my personal social media. You can find me at Instagram at Ricky Rod. So Instagram, Facebook, it's Baumhaus Recording. Facebook.com, Baumhaus Recording. The website's baumhausrecording.com. And then the drum samples you'll find on multitracks.com. It's called Luke Anderson is who my partner is with that. He's the face and name kind of driving force there. I'm just the guy that kind of does all the studio stuff for him. There's incredible samples. Like, we went to a recording studio actually outside of Atlanta that has one of the oldest Neve consoles like functioning in the world. And it is an incredible console, like historic. I cannot, like, I literally had chill bumps when I saw it. So we have a whole line of these drum samples that we tracked on that console, and we did a lot of creative stuff. So yeah, go check that out. And God willing, hopefully I'll have my guitar presets at some point for sale. I just haven't had time to finish all that stuff up. So
That's amazing.
Well, Ricky, it has been an absolute pleasure catching up with you. It's been way too long since you and I have really got to sit down and talk at all. So it's nice to be able to do this at least over Zoom now that we're extremely far away from each other.
Well, I'm happy for you.
Well, thank you.
I'm happy for you, and it's good to meet you as well. I think
Yes.
it's great. This is just an example. We're always going to be friends regardless.
Absolutely.
Right?
Mhm. Oh, yeah.
So it's just, y'all are a huge blessing. So
Thank you, Ricky. Well, you are just an awesome human being, and everything that you're doing in the world, keep doing it. Don't ever stop, and don't ever forget about your dreams, and just keep hustling and doing you.
I need to figure out how to get back to Hawaii. That's
I'm a
like-
travel agent as well. I can make that happen.
Listen, we did that Maui last year. Dear Lord, I don't know. I almost didn't come back. Okay.
We can make a trip happen for sure. I know a lot of people out there probably need trips as well.
Yeah, we may just tag along. It's okay.
Yes.
That's fine.
Well, thank you, Ricky. You have been awesome. Thank you for your time and for being with us here today.
Yeah, we'll talk to you soon, brother.
Bye.
Bye.
Man, that was such a good interview with such a good friend of mine that just I love hearing him talk and catching up with him. He's got such a great mind and the way he approaches things.
Oh, yeah. And to have so many businesses and so many like different genres to learn and to adapt and to grow that field is just so impressive.
And he's a beast at all of them. So if you've not heard the music that Ricky Rodriguez has produced, I highly recommend you go look some up. You can listen to some of my older music, some of my Foxwood, all of my Foxwood music that I've released in the past was all done by Ricky Rod. And he's just an amazing person. And if you're looking for a fantastic producer and you're in the North Carolina area, I definitely recommend hitting him up.
Yep, that sounds great. And thank you guys for tuning in, for sending us all of your questions and your success stories. We love to read them. And don't forget that we are on Patreon at patreon.com/Creative Global. And with that, this is a Creative Global Entertainment production. Did you get motivated? Do you feel inspired?
Don't worry about keeping up with the Joneses anymore, and don't forget to celebrate your successes every single day. Thank you for taking this journey with us.
Follow us at Facebook and Instagram at Reimagine Success Pod. Email us at reimaginesuccesspod@gmail.com and let us know what your successes are.
New episodes every Thursday at reimaginesuccesspod.com.
So let's change our mindsets and reimagine success.